Welcome back to the Veroscope analysis of Jennifer McCabe, who we are watching today being cross-examined by Alan Jackson on the witness stand. And then after we've watched 10 or 15 minutes of the cross-examination, we're going to go back into the actual forensic linguistics of the case in a similar way that the FBI's Behavioral Analysis Unit analyze a statement for the forensic linguistics using statement analysis skills. And we're going to identify where she's deceptive, where she lies, how she lies, and why, and who for. So it's going to be quite a day on Jenn McCabe Week on the Veroscope channel. Not Shark Week, as we said last time, but Jenn McCabe Week. And we're going to get to the bottom of the analysis where we will have listened to Alan Jackson's entire cross and examined every single word and sentence and structure that Jenn McCabe has used and where her lies hide in her language. So without further ado, let's listen to Alan Jackson cross-examine Jenn McCabe in trial 2 of the Karen Reed trial.
Direct and cross-examination?
No.
So he didn't ask you any questions about any of your answers?
Excuse me, you're reading wrong. Put these on. Show me your book. I'm going to take a picture of it. Now it's going to scan it and read it to you.
I don't, he showed me a dash cam and would ask me to point out who's this, who's that, a waterfall video, is this you, is this somebody? Those were the type of questions that he asked me.
What about any discussion about your demeanor and how you performed in the last proceeding? Objection.
Sister.
I'll ask it a different way. What about your demeanor? I'm using probably a poor word, perform. Mm-hmm. How you came across your demeanor in the last proceeding. Objection.
Sister.
Did you discuss changing your demeanor in any way, shape, form, or fashion from the last trial to, the last proceeding to this trial, my mistake. From the last proceeding to this trial, was your demeanor ever discussed?
No, I was just told to slow down, answer the question, and, answer it to the best of my memory.
Was there any discussion about talking about your background, for instance, your family and your children and being a sports mom, as you talked about in your direct examination?
No, I believe I did that in the previous one as well.
Was there any discussion about crafting your testimony in any way to suggest a softer approach?
No.
Was there any discussion about how to develop your testimony from beginning to end?
Sustained.
Did Mr. Brennan ask you or let me ask it a different way. Did Mr. Brennan take you through a series of questions, for instance, as almost a test run of questions that you might be asked either in direct examination or cross-examination?
No.
Did you practice your testimony with any member of the DA's office?
No.
Were there any sessions where you sat and was subjected to a cross-examination, like a fake cross-examination or a fake direct examination?
No, there
Anything
wasn't.
like that?
No.
What were the things that stand out in your mind? You said you had at least 4 meetings. How long was each meeting, by the way, ish?
The first meeting, I think, was fairly quick. It was just the introduction.
30 minutes, less than 30 minutes?
I don't want to give a time because I'm not sure.
Okay.
But I was fairly quick, yes.
Okay. What about the second meeting?
Again, I don't know specific meetings, but I can tell you that there was a longer one where I did watch some dash cam video, look at different pictures, things like that.
What kind of pictures did you look at? Other than the dash cam video?
The pictures of John's house.
When somebody says, what I can tell you, always put your radar on, because what I can tell you isn't what they could tell you if they told the whole truth. So always radar on as soon as you hear what I can tell you. And Jenn McCabe gave us a good example there.
Okay. The same photos that we saw today?
Yes.
How long in total would you say all of those meetings were? Just taking them all together.
I really can't give you I really can't give you an estimate, I think.
Now, every single witness is absolutely anal about timelines and time. So much so that they have been overcoached. One of the witnesses won't even say whether it was yesterday, today, or tomorrow. It was that bad. The guy in the lilac suit, whatever he was wearing. This one is similar. She will stay away from all time. They've been extremely well coached. What she can say, etc. They will not talk about time. They've been well coached, to be fair. Liars, gaslighters, and deceivers and criminals have to stay away from timelines. It's always their Achilles heel. And the cops and the agents involved in this cover-up know that. So every witness has been overcoached. No time, no timelines, certainly do not involve anyone else in any of your timelines. Absolute no recall on anything to do with time. Let's carry on.
The first one was fairly quick. The second one, one of them was a little bit longer, maybe a couple hours.
Okay. Then the third one, was that also a couple hours, or was that one fairly quick?
That was fairly quick, yes.
So fair to say between 2, 3, 4 hours total meeting times?
Again, I'd have to probably go back and look at the date and the time. I really can't give you a specific amount of time. I apologize.
Did Trooper Tully or Trooper Buchanan ask you any questions during the course of any of these meetings?
Regarding the case, no, but we did briefly talk about how my kids were, how their kids were.
But they didn't ask you any questions about your testimony, about the case, about your memories, about specific facts?
I do not believe so, no.
During any of these meetings, was anybody taking notes? Ms. McLaughlin, Mr. Lally, Mr. Brennan, any of the troopers?
No, I don't believe so.
So there was several hours worth of meetings with you.
Always catch her little begs to the prosecutor sometimes when she asks for an objection, and then the prosecutor and the tag team, the Auntie Bev Canoni, who calls herself a judge, goes into action to protect the witness. You'll notice it. So sometimes the flash of the eyes to Brennan begging for the objection, and he doesn't give it to her for some reason. Other times he will, and then Bev immediately sustains. Sometimes they also do the flash when they're unsure of the answer, almost looking for approval. Let's carry on.
And nobody scribed any notes that you saw?
None that I saw, no.
And these meetings were not recorded?
I do not believe so, no.
Ms. McCabe, I'm going to...
The more observant there would have noticed her eye movement flash as she tried to genuinely recall, using genuine memory recall, about whether or not the meetings were recorded. If you ever play this back, look for that flash at this moment in time, 16:46, just a few seconds beforehand.
I asked you a series of questions about your family.
Boom! Look at that
because I just want to make sure it's crystal clear who's who. You're married to Matt McCabe, correct?
Yes.
Your sister is Nicole Albert.
Yes.
Nicole is married to Brian Albert.
Yes.
It was Brian Albert's home that you were at, 34 Fairview, that you arrived at, where John's body was found, correct?
Yes.
The same home where that late night gathering was on January 28th going into the morning of the 29th, correct?
Yes.
Would you consider yourself to be close with your sister Nicole and Brian?
Yes, very close.
Your families, it's not just you and Nicole, your whole families are close, correct?
Yes, we have a very close family.
How long have you known Brian Albert?
Since I was in kindergarten.
You consider him, even though he is not blood related to you, you consider him family?
Yes.
In addition to Brian and Nicole Albert, you're also very close with Chris and Julie Albert, correct?
Yes.
Just to be clear, and I'm going to do this slowly,
Okay.
Brian Albert's younger brother is Chris Albert, correct?
Yes.
Chris Albert is married to Julie Albert.
Yes.
You consider Chris and Julie family, even though there may not be a blood relation as well, correct?
Yes.
Chris Albert is a Canton Select Board member, is that right?
Now he is, yes.
And the Canton, that's in Canton? I said Select Board member, did I mention Canton Select Board member?
It is in Canton, yes.
All right, obviously it's in Canton. The Canton Police Department reports to the Select Board, correct?
Did you hear about the new trend called soap nails? All the beauty media are talking about it. Ultra shiny, natural and healthy looking nails.
I'm not aware.
You're not aware of that echelon?
No.
Okay. You're aware that Brian Albert, your friend of, I'm not going to say how many years, but since kindergarten, was a Boston police officer.
Yes.
He had been a lifetime law enforcement officer for some 30 years before he retired recently, correct?
Yes.
He's a trained first responder, obviously.
Yes.
Brian Albert and Chris Albert have another brother named Kevin Albert, correct?
Yes.
Kevin Albert is a detective with a police department, correct?
Yes, I believe that's his title. I'm not
Which
100%.
Which police department is Kevin Albert associated with?
Canton.
And you've grown up in Canton your whole life, you indicated.
Yes.
Your entire family has grown up in Canton, correct?
Yes.
And you, Ms. McCabe, have three sisters. Nicole, we've talked about. You also have a sister named Shelley, is that right?
Michelle, yes.
Michelle?
Mm-hmm.
And Denise, who you mentioned in your direct examination.
Yes.
Nicole is also known by nickname, is that right?
Yes.
What is Nicole's nickname within the family?
Coco.
Does Shelley also have a nickname? Well, I guess Shelley is the
Yeah,
shortened
Shelley
name for
is.
Michelle, correct?
Yes.
What about Denise?
She's Dee Dee.
Dee Dee?
Yeah, like Deedee.
Your father lives close by in a neighboring town, correct?
Yes.
Don't tell me the town, but it's relatively close to Canton.
20 minutes, yes.
Okay. His name is Tom Weeks.
Yes.
There are, I'm not going to go through all of them right now because the family tree is getting large, but there are children, cousins, second cousins, nephews, aunts, uncles. There's a combination of...
We saw there the multiple communications saying, I'm feeling stressed, I'm feeling pressured, you better be ready with the objection, you promised. And this is what's happening.
familial relations within that set of folks that I just talked about, Chris and Brian and Nicole and you and Matt and the folks that we just talked about.
Yes.
That family, that large family, celebrates holidays together, I'm guessing?
We don't typically, celebrate with Kevin and Chris, but my family does, yes.
Along with Brian, Albert, and Nicole?
Yes, of course.
Birthdays are celebrated within that family?
Yes.
Go on vacations together, I'm guessing?
Yes.
Gatherings like the one on the 28th?
Yes.
Special events?
Yes.
Spend weekends together?
Yes.
You mentioned a lot of sporting events. There's a lot of sporting events that y'all go to together.
Yes.
So it is very, very easy to see that it's an extremely close-knit family.
Yes.
And naturally, you're very protective of your family, as anybody would be.
Yes, I love my family.
You also said that you knew, and your words, liked Karen Reed, my client, on the 28th of January 2022, correct?
Yes.
But she very much is not family, correct?
Correct.
She certainly was not as important to you as your actual family, the Alberts, the McCabes, the folks associated with them. Is that right?
Yes.
On January 28th, 2022, members of the Albert family and the McCabe family all went to a bar together, had drinks together that night. Waterfall, we heard a little bit about that, correct?
Correct.
Ultimately, you went back to your sister's house for the after party that we've heard so much about. That was at Brian Albert's house, is that right?
Yes.
You've been interviewed, I think you indicated multiple times. You didn't even give a number of how many times you've been interviewed by police in this case, is that right?
Yes.
Your family is connected to people at Boston Police Department. We've just talked about that. Brian Albert, is that right?
Well, was a Boston police officer.
Right. So when I say connected, there is some familial or family or friendly connection to that police agency, Boston Police Department. It'd be Brian Albert in this case, correct?
The objection sustained.
There's also a connection to the Massachusetts State Police through your family, is that right?
Objection. So define connection.
Julie and Chris Albert are very, very close to you, correct?
I'm close with Julie and Chris, yes.
You're aware that Michael Proctor's sister, Courtney, is basically best friends with Julie.
No, I'm not aware of that. She's best friends with Julie's sister, Jillian.
Okay, so Courtney's best friends with Jillian, who's sisters to Julie,
Yes.
who's married to Chris, who's an Albert, who's the little brother of Brian Albert.
Yes.
Okay. And Canton Police Department, there's also some connections there as well, Kevin Albert being the most obvious of them. Objection.
I'm going to allow that. Do you have a connection with the Canton Police Department?
Not with the department, but with
And this is Auntie Bev's pattern. She interrupts and then asks her own question rather than saying overruled and allowing the attorney's question to stand. So by taking over from Jackson and asking in a slightly different way the question again, it does a couple of things. It buys the witness time. If she uses strategies and techniques like, can you answer that? Notice how subtly the question has changed to a far easier question. The question being, can you answer that? And it either requires a no, which is what you'll get 99% of the time when offered that olive branch. So she'll say, can you answer that? They say no. She says, move on, Mr. Jackson. Or words to such effect. So this is her pattern. This is how the judge protects, inverted commas, her witnesses. And so as the FBI investigation really starts to accelerate and the civil trial really starts to get underway, we will discover how high the corruption goes. That's really above this entire trial. How deep and how far has the corruption gone? And I'm absolutely certain that the FBI investigation is not just about the killing or murder of John O'Keefe. It encompasses far more. Corruption is at the heart of it. Let's carry on.
Albert.
Right, who's a member of the department.
Yes, but my relationship's with him.
Understood. You've indicated that you've been interviewed by law enforcement agents associated with Massachusetts State, with Canton Police Department. That'd be Officer Lank.
Yes.
Can I stop
Officer
you for a
Good.
second and see counsel at sidebar, please?
Sure.
Okay, so it was starting to get dangerous, wasn't it?
Hey, are you kidding me?
I've no idea, by the way, why these ads
Jackson,
come
go right
on,
ahead.
because
When last we left off, we
We've
were
got
talking a
premium
little bit
here.
about some of the familial connections that your family has with certain law enforcement agencies. We talked about Boston Police Department, obviously, Brian Albert. We talked a little bit about Massachusetts State Police and knowing friends of friends with regard to Chris and Julie, correct?
Yeah. Knowing friends of Chris and Julie?
Friends of friends of Chris and Julie.
So I can't wait to see the sidebars here, because whenever the judge gets stressed that the truth comes out, as she did just now, she calls the sidebar. She didn't like the fact that it's a den of vipers down there. The entire investigation was essentially with friends of the family that have known them all their life. Lank has had a physical drunken fight on behalf of one of the Alberts with some local yobs. They babysit for each other. The entire investigation was corrupt from the beginning. Nobody entered the murder house. I call it the murder house because that's the charge the prosecution gave. Refused to enter or investigate the house where the party was, where a dead cop ended up on the lawn the morning after the party. Nowhere in the world would any police force or any investigation team that isn't corrupted would not investigate the murder house. It's ridiculous. And they come up with various excuses as to why they didn't. One of them, well, Jenn McCabe told us something, so we didn't have to. It's just ridiculous. One of them said it's because they didn't find John's shoe until after 12, and so that's why we didn't investigate the murder house. All kinds of ridiculous straw man arguments which don't hold water. It's corrupt. It's a law enforcement officer's house. They decided to pin it on the girl, Karen Reed, who you can see here, and not investigate. And they also planted evidence, as we all know. Anyway, well, let's carry on.
Is that your relationship?
With who?
I'd asked you about. I'll ask you a different question.
Okay.
A little bit vague. Courtney Proctor is friends with Julie's sister.
Yes.
And obviously Courtney also knows Julie and Chris, correct?
There she is,
Sister.
swinging her chair,
And
bashing
there's
her
also
microphone.
a connection to Canton Police Department through Kevin Albert. Is that right? Exactly.
Can you answer that? Is there a connection? Do you have a connection
this
with the
is her
Canton
trick.
Police Department through Kevin Albert?
Not with the police department, but Kevin Albert is Brian Albert's brother.
Right. And Kevin works for whom?
The Canton Police.
Thank you. So you've been interviewed many times by different law enforcement agencies, be they Massachusetts State Police, Canton Police, or otherwise, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Those interviews have not just been over the period of weeks, it's been over the period of weeks and months and even years since this occurred, correct?
Yes.
You were contacted by another law enforcement agency that was not Massachusetts State Police and not Canton Police Department.
The FBI.
At one point in April of 2023. Do you remember that?
Yes.
I want to talk for a second about that series of interview, or that interview.
You keep seeing the bag.
You were contacted at your residence by these members of this law enforcement agency, correct?
Yes.
All right. Later that same day, you did sit down with those same law enforcement officers for a formal interview.
On that.
On that same day that you were contacted by them, they also went into your home and actually interviewed you, correct?
Yes, it was brief.
All right. Those law enforcement officers identified themselves as being associated with an agency that is not Massachusetts State Police. You understood that.
Yes.
And you understood that they were not involved with Canton Police Department either, correct?
Correct.
Completely separate agency, is that right?
Yes.
During the course of that interview, those officers informed you very specifically, Ms. McCabe, that it is a crime to lie to them, even during an interview, correct?
Yes.
Those law enforcement officers informed you that they were investigating certain circumstances attendant to John O'Keefe's death, correct?
They were very vague on what they were.
Understood.
I don't know what they were investigating.
But you did understand that it was having something to do with your involvement at 34 Fairview on January 28th, 29th, 2022.
Objection.
As a witness or otherwise?
Objection.
Sustained as to certain terminologies.
Sure. Let me see if I can rephrase that, Ms. McCabe. You were aware of the subject matter of their interview, right? They weren't interviewing about a car you bought last year, correct?
On Vinted, extra care means extra cash. People say I think outside the box. I'm thinking inside the box.
Correct.
They were interviewing you basically about what you're testifying to here, correct?
When I first spoke with them, the conversation was pretty vague.
But the subject matter, vague or specific, was about this subject matter.
Yes.
Okay, fair enough. They first contacted you telephonically. Called you on the phone. Is that right?
Actually, they walked up to my car.
They walked up to your car?
Yes.
Okay, that was the very first introduction, correct?
Yes.
At that point, they had not identified themselves, correct?
They didn't know.
All right, and at that point, you told them that you were not Jennifer McCabe. They asked you who you were, and you said, I'm Nicole.
I thought they were like...
Okay, so now she's going to tell us that the FBI have come to talk to her because there's been a murder. And she's going to come up with some bullshit that she thought they were salespeople, and so she lied and pretended that she was somebody else. Oh, just listen.
Selling something, so I was like, oh no, I'm not the homeowner.
Fair enough, fair enough. However, after they said...
And the nodding of the confirmation of her ridiculous story. Look at the absolute shame. Shame. Disgusting liar.
Sorry, after you said, I'm not Jennifer McCabe, you walked into the house, they then called you on the phone.
Yes.
They were still sitting outside your house.
I don't know where they were, but they did call me.
They were close by.
I'm not aware.
Well, the call came almost immediately after you walked back in the house, correct?
I'm not sure how much time had passed.
Give me an idea. It wasn't an hour. It was...
No, it was
5 to 10
soon
minutes.
after. I'm just not sure. I can't tell you where they were located. I'm sorry.
Okay. They told you that they would, at that point, they identified themselves as being law enforcement agents, correct?
When they called me, yes.
And they told you at that time that they were not with Canton Police. You knew at least they were not with Canton Police Department. They were not with troopers with Massachusetts State Police, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And they told you that they would like to have an interview with you. They'd like to have a sit-down talk with you, correct?
Yes.
You told them that you would be willing to submit to an interview, but you needed about 10 minutes to get ready, correct?
Yes.
You ultimately did allow them into your home, and you did sit down for a formal interview with them, correct?
Yes, brief, but yes.
And it was during that formal interview inside the home that it was explained to you that it would be a crime for you to lie to them on any material issue, correct?
Yes.
During the course of your interview,
Did you notice the absolute stress on the swallows and the pretending to the jury? This is what I like about her pantomime and her act. That when she nods to the jury as if she's some sort of trustworthy person, as if she's the witness, but acting like the guilty. Have you noticed that? All the guilty... Sorry. You see, that came out, didn't it? All the witnesses act guilty. That came out from the unconscious. Isn't that interesting? All the guilty. I meant all the witnesses. They act guilty. All of them. Let's carry on.
husband, Matt McCabe, came home. Is that right?
Yes.
As these law enforcement agents continue to question you, these law enforcement officers continue to question you at some point, you inform them that you did not feel comfortable with any further questioning and you suspended the interview, correct?
Yes.
Before leaving, however, those same law enforcement officers asked you if you had contacted anyone in those 10 minutes when you indicated, I need 10 minutes to get ready, between the time they called you and the time that they showed up and came inside your house, correct?
Okay, let's catch up with the analysis, and then after we've caught up, we'll go back to the video and watch another 10 minutes or so of the cross-examination. So where are we? Let's catch up. We saw the distinction that isn't. Jackson opens by establishing the depth of information exchange between McCabe and Kerry Roberts. We covered this partly in terms of frameworks of McCabe's linguistics the other day in part one. However, what emerges across this sequence is a witness who concedes each factual point but resists every characterizing word. So let's have a look at that. As McCabe describes the nature of her conversations with Roberts, she produces one of the most revealing, spontaneous utterances in the cross-examination. She says, "Oh, when I got a phone call, and that's my story, you know, I got a phone call in the morning, and then Kerry can say, yeah, I got a phone call as well. As you said, that's your story, correct? Not my story, it's the truth." And just a second earlier, that's my story, not my story. Do you see her problems here? The word story emerges from automatic processing. You saw an example of that when I talked about the guilty, and I actually meant the witnesses. It comes automatically from the Broca area of the brain. That's the part of the brain responsible for language coordination and selection in particular of tense and pronoun, etc. And it's during this spontaneous utterance that word choices, they bypass our conscious monitoring, which is why you need to be careful and you need to think before you open your mouth. You see, all the old sayings are true, and it's because it's coming from the unconscious. Now, McCabe's brain produced story. It did. She said, that's my story. And it produced story because it accurately describes what she and Roberts have been developing, a narrative, and they've been doing it together. The conscious mind catches this within the same breath and attempts a correction, but the correction is incomplete, and you will have noticed the cognitive overload, and so the sentence structure starts to break down. There's only so much compute available, and when you're lying, you have to manage the truth because you know everything that you know. You have to manage your constructed narrative. You have to manage the person that you're lying to and their reactions and read them real time. You've got to remember everything that you've constructed and not confuse it with the truth. And you've probably got 4 or 5 other thoughts spinning through your head. It's increased the amount of compute that's necessary above the normal baseline. It's also increasing the amount of energy, is another way of looking at it. And so because of that, the overload, the cognitive overload, causes errors. And these errors manifest in language errors. And so they're measurable. All we're doing is listening really carefully and looking, if we get to see a transcript, at the actual words. They themselves give themselves away. It's their own words. And we enter a statement believing them. And we enter a statement trying to gain linguistic empathy, deep rapport with the speaker, believing what they say until they talk us out of it. And if we've got that linguistic empathy, we'll recognize, oh, they've suddenly speeded up the story, the number of words it takes for an hour of story as is less or more, or we notice suddenly they've dropped the I pronoun or the tense has changed because we're actively listening and we pick it up. And also with a bit of training, we'll have set our radars to pick up whenever there's a deceptive marker. And it can get good enough that it operates at the unconscious level so that when you interview somebody, you pretty much know exactly where they're being deceptive, how, where, etc. So if you're following Veroscope, you'll have noticed that you're getting a lot better. Even after 7 or 8 videos, you'll notice, oh, I'm seeing things. And seeing things for the first time. And it's going to be so much harder to deceive you in the future. Almost impossible if you actively listen. So, where are we? The conscious mind catches this within the same breath and attempts a correction. but the correction is incomplete. That's my "I got a phone call." The self-interruption reveals the moment monitoring kicked in. Jackson catches it. McCabe's correction: "Not my story, it's the truth," she says. It's emphatic, but the emphasis itself reveals the sensitivity to what she's been just caught doing, making up a story. Note the pronoun architecture. She does not say "I'm telling the truth." She says "it's the truth." The pronoun I is ejected entirely. Now, pronouns show commitment to the statement. I is the strongest commitment a speaker can make, and McCabe makes the narrative vouch for itself rather than staking her personal commitment to it. It's the truth, she says. She assigns truth as a property of the story out there, not something she is personally guaranteeing. And note what survives the correction: the possessive "not my story." She rejects the label but keeps ownership. It is still hers, it is just not a story. The possessive pronoun survived the denial. This all happens at the unconscious level. We also noticed that there was a tense change present inside part. Look, listen, when I got a phone call, and that's my story. Okay, so by active listening, essentially what we do is we slow down, and one of the things that we might catch is tense change. So listen, McCabe is narrating a past event. Got. When I got, so got is past. She got a phone call, past tense, but then look, mid-sentence, that's my story, present tense. And we notice in deception that we will often get tense changes. The shift happens without a breath. Got places the event in the past, that brings it into the now. Her story is not something that happened, it's something that is present, active, being maintained, being used. The tense reveals this narrative is not a memory being recalled, but a script currently in operation. And what we're going to be doing is placing everybody's veroscope at a far deeper level than we're showing here, because if we start going deeper and deeper into the mathematics of the sentence structures, it gets very boring very quickly. But we can use that to analyze against other people's statements, and we can track real time how they're interacting with each other and how their lies cross over and very often don't match. But that's for later. Let's carry on with Jenn McCabe's more detailed analysis than usual. So we're going a bit deeper today. And then Kerry can say, yeah, I got a phone call as well. Listen, the modal verb is devastating. Not Kerry said, past tense, reporting what happened. Not Kerry would say, hypothetical, conditional, but can say, present tense capability. McCabe is describing what Roberts is able to confirm, as if she is building a case, listing the available corroboration. The tense places the coordination not in the past, but in the ongoing present. This is what our story consists of, and here is what each of us can contribute to it. So you'll notice the deeper we look at somebody's language, the more we can understand the levels of communication within it. And notice that McCabe scripts Roberts' first-person testimony from her own mouth. Yeah, I got a phone call as well. She does not say Kerry also got a phone call. She assumes Roberts' voice. She produces Roberts' first-person pronoun and delivers Roberts' line. The brain has rehearsed this so thoroughly that it can produce the other witness's testimony in the other witness's voice. The synchronization is so complete that McCabe does not distinguish between her own narrative and Roberts. They exist as a single, coordinated account in her cognitive architecture. And then we have the rejected words, compare and influence. She has a style which is very grating. You know how people just really annoy you? They just they wind you up. They get on your wrong side, you know. Well, McCabe is one of those, and it's because she has patterns of speech where, as we'll go on to show, and we use a skeleton example, by the way. So in the end, she'll concede the truth after resisting, and you really have to battle to get the truth out of her, like blood out of a stone. But then even after she's conceded the truth, she'll then move on to battleground number 2, which is arguing the words. So yeah, all right, I'll give you the truth, I'll concede the fact, but now we have to argue about each and every single word within that truthful frame. Does that make any sense? So here we have an example. So there have been circumstances, Jackson says, so there have been circumstances in which you and Miss Roberts have compared by definition what she remembers versus what you remember, correct? Correct. I wouldn't say compare. It's just so annoying. Well, what would you say in terms of what you've discussed and why? I would say that we've both talked about what we've discussed, but it wasn't like a comparison. We weren't comparing anything. So you literally have to battle for everything. You'll get the truth after a battle, but then you have to battle over the word. And this is consistent. McCabe says correct to the factual description, but then immediately rejects the word compare. And then she tries to substitute. We've both talked about what we've discussed. It's circular, it's semantically empty, it's a straw man argument in effect. It describes the acts of talking about talking. The brain is searching for language because she doesn't want compare, because it reveals the truth. So she tries through this semantic bullshit to try and disguise the fact that they've been comparing. Now, when you have to lie, when you have to hide the truth as a witness, this is very concerning. The brain is searching for language that describes what happened without accepting what it implies. It's a second-tier sensitivity indicator. The behavior is admitted, but only the interpretation is disputed. Very common in gaslighting. And then we have the same pattern with influenced. I don't think I would say influenced. So the words are rejected whilst the truth is admitted. And then we have the silence, the pronoun void. Before McCabe rejects the word influenced, Jackson makes a stronger assertion. It would be impossible for hundreds of conversations not to have influenced each other's accounts. McCabe's response is no verbal answer recorded. And it's not because of what pronoun she chose, but because she produced no pronoun at all, no sentence, no words, complete and utter silence. She's been answering Jackson continuously for 7 minutes, although she keeps begging for the objection. She's correcting him, she's qualifying, she's pushing back, she's substituting words. Then she does the concede reject machine. In other words, she'll concede the point but reject the word. I wasn't influenced. I don't think I would say influenced. So hundreds of times and the trauma framework. Before reaching the frequency question, Jackson establishes the epistemological battleground. Say that when you've had a drink. The epistemological battleground. And McCabe reveals the firewall she has built around the nature of shared information. Jackson says, so you were talking about what she remembers happening that morning, correct? No, what happened that morning? Oh dear. So everything is a battle. Jackson frames the shared information as a memory, what she remembers happening. McCabe's correction is instantaneous. No, what happened? The correction converts subjective information to objective fact. This matters because memories can be contaminated by hundreds of conversations. Facts cannot. McCabe's brain instinctively reclassifies the shared information as fact rather than memory, because memory is the word that makes the contamination argument possible. The correction fires within the same breath. This is automatic processing, not deliberate strategy, but look what she's doing. She's admitting that memories are different to what happened. Do you see her problem? At the unconscious level, she sees these as different because they've been constructing a narrative and making things up and framing Karen Reed. Don't forget, McCabe knows exactly what's happened. Roberts, on the other hand, is still being gaslit. And you can imagine McCabe's pretending to be her friend, which he did the same with that poor lady, Peggy O'Keefe. Complete, absolute, most disgusting gaslighting behavior you could possibly imagine. The murderers and killers and cover-uppers gaslighting the mother of the victim. I mean, you just cannot get worse. That's what McCabe is doing constantly. And Roberts has fallen for it. The mean, popular girl at school is friends with the plain Jane, and plain Jane is really happy about it. So Jackson then establishes the emotional architecture McCabe uses to justify the scope of information sharing. He says, that bonding is the glue that holds you two together in this case, correct? Yes. So that probably by definition is the foundation of many, many, many of your conversations. Would you agree? We've grown into friends where we talk about many other things besides the case. Sure. Okay. McCabe tries the deflection to domesticity. She tries the normal mum routine quite a lot. Hundreds of times goes unchallenged. McCabe and Roberts have discussed their respective perceptions of this case hundreds of times. This is the single most important factual admission in the contamination architecture. Memory is a very sensitive point to this woman. It establishes that no memory either witness now holds can be considered uncontaminated by the other's account. And then she goes on to attempt the self-pity with the jury. This case is traumatized us. Excuse the transcript error there. Or I'll have to check, possibly, we'll see. Could be cognitive overload, but it's probably a transcript error. When Jackson pauses, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. The monitoring system activates. McCabe's correction, I meant traumatized our lives. The shift from us to our lives creates distance. Us is personal, direct. The trauma happens to us. Our lives externalizes. The trauma affected an abstraction, lives rather than the people themselves. The correction moves from intimacy to distance, from personal to conceptual. The brain caught us and replaced it with something less exposed. The case and this case. McCabe uses this pattern strategically at the unconscious level. This case, it's close, it's right here, it's present. This is obviously far closer than that. This case. But she sometimes uses the case, and this has more distance. So we note when and why. And when we go into the larger analysis where we have every person's veroscope all connected, although this might not give us particular intelligence that's useful in this analysis, by identifying everything in everyone's veroscope, the cross examinations literally are very rich in intelligence. So we have a preparation infrastructure. Jackson transitions from the Roberts coordination to McCabe's formal preparation with the prosecution. And here we see the pattern of unrecorded meetings. Do you remember? She really won't be given to any sort of timeline. No, I don't believe so. None that I saw. It's all very vague, isn't it? She won't commit. Was your demeanor ever discussed? And then we saw a whole load of objections, didn't we? You see, coaching of the witnesses has been extensive. We have 3 direct no's: no hedging, no qualification, no self-interruption. Did you notice that? These denials are structurally clean and contrast sharply with McCabe's evasive responses elsewhere. The contrast itself is informative. When McCabe is telling the truth, she produces clean, unqualified denials. And do you remember she even searched for the memory recall? And so she flashed her eyes up, and it was either to the right or to the left, I can't remember. But she had the flash of memory recall. I suspect with her it's up and to the left, although I haven't done an NLPI pattern analysis of her. But it was definitely a flash of memory recall. So she can tell the truth. And then we went through where it's safe to. And then we went through the family tree. And of course, Bev absolutely hated that, didn't she? The truth was coming out. They're all connected. The investigators grew up with them virtually. It's virtually family friends. No wonder they didn't go inside the murder house. Whenever Bev gets worried about the truth coming out, she starts swinging the chair, twirling the glasses, swinging her monkey arms around, bashing her microphone. You'll hear it through the whole trial. Whenever you hear that, that's Bev smashing her microphone because she's getting animated because the truth's coming out. I think she's under instructions. Is she under instructions from that buffoon Morrissey? Do they know each other well, those two? Can you imagine them walking off into the sunset hand in hand? He's going, isn't he, Morrissey? He's being replaced. Political change often reveals the truth. So then we have the whole rigmarole of pretending that they don't know each other very well. They're very worried about the connection to law enforcement. Why? These are just witnesses, they claim. And then, of course, we have the FBI interview, don't we? I mean, it's just so ridiculous. Bev wouldn't allow the FBI to be mentioned by name. So Jackson establishes that McCabe initially denied her identity when first approached by the FBI. She said she was Nicole, her sister's name. She basically lied to get away from them. And then what did she do on her telephone once she's inside? Does she still think that they're salespeople? Her explanation, she thought the agents were selling something. Yeah, like 20 years in prison, Jen. After they identified themselves by phone, McCabe agreed to an interview but requested 10 minutes. What was she doing? Whether or not the selling something explanation is true, the behavioral data point is established. McCabe's first instinct upon being approached by unknown people, asking for her by name, was to deny being herself. This pattern, deny first, explain later, will repeat throughout this section. So during those 10 minutes, she contacted 5 people. She disclosed 2 to the FBI, and she concealed 3. Matt McCabe was disclosed. Kerry Roberts was disclosed. Peggy O'Keefe was concealed. The district attorney's office, the witness advocate, concealed. And Brian Albert, what on earth is she doing calling Brian Albert, the owner of the murder house? Didn't she need to go and clean her teeth or something? The 3 concealed contacts are not random omissions. They form a hierarchy of protective notification. They've got to stay absolutely close to Peggy O'Keefe. That's McCabe's #1 job. If they lose her, they've lost the lot. I suspect when Peggy O'Keefe sees the woods for the trees, if she hasn't already, there's going to be hell to pay. The poor lady, psychologically, she's been absolutely abused by this crew. This was the evil. You see the accident in a drunken fight and somebody falling and the dog attacking, that's explainable. But then to deliberately attempt to imprison an innocent lady just to cover your own arse, and to gaslight an old lady, the mother of the victim, and to pull your children into it and risk 20 years on a RICO charge, which the federal government have up their sleeve. It's an ongoing criminal enterprise. It's an ongoing conspiracy in a criminal enterprise, conspiring to cover up the murder or killing of a Boston cop. It's not going away, ever. Ever. And to break them, RICO, it's 20 years for everyone. Everyone. Even if you just picked somebody up from their house, but 20 years. And if you're not in the lifeboat, you're on the other side. involved in the conspiracy. And these aren't gangsters. No one's going to do 20 years for, for those involved in the actual violence. And to pull your children into this risk, that's just awful. Anyway, let's not get sidetracked. McCabe disclosed 2 contacts that would appear most natural and least suspicious, her husband and her friend, while hiding the 3 that would most alarm federal investigators examining potential witness coordination and prosecutorial entanglement. The concealment of Brian Albert, the Boston cop whose house it was that John O'Keefe was found dead on the front lawn of, is especially significant. This is a 30-year law enforcement veteran on whose lawn a man was found dead. And when federal agents outside the case's investigative structure, in other words, not friends and family, arrive unexpectedly, McCabe's 10-minute response includes alerting the homeowner, alerting Peggy O'Keefe, etc. She's on the phone, coordinating. Conspiring. Covering up the killing or murder of a Boston cop. That's what they've done. Serious charges. Serious crime. She hides that contact from the agents, from the FBI, who have long memories. So McCabe describes making 5 phone calls in 10 minutes. We know Roberts was the first, and we know her husband was called. But Brian Albert, the DA, and Peggy O'Keefe, no order, no sequence. We've got no time architecture at all. She says, I kind of made some phone calls. Do you recognize this pattern? I kind of. In other words, we see this so often in deception. I kind of made some phone calls. And that's the full extent of how she accounts for 5 telephone calls, while she's meant to be cleaning her teeth. And I wonder why she chose that as the excuse. We'll cover that another day on another analysis. Now, if she called Brian Albert before Matt, before her own husband, that reveals who she most urgently needed to alert. If she called the DA before Brian Albert, that reveals prosecution coordination as her first instinct of the FBI turning up. The sequence is the confession, so the sequence disappears, you see? That's why. So we always look to mirror back from intelligence. She doesn't want us to know the order or the sequence of these phone calls because it would give us intelligence. It would give us different meanings. It would tell us what she was thinking more clearly. We have a temporal void. She's being deceptive. So I think that brings us to the end of today's Veroscope, and we'll continue tomorrow as we continue Shark Week, or McCabe Week as we're calling it, on the Veroscope channel. I do look forward to your comments, and if you are interested in learning more depth to forensic linguistics and statement analysis, there is a membership area on YouTube for the Veroscope channel. So do consider that. There's 2 levels. One is buy me a coffee, and I would very much appreciate the support, helping to make the cold case videos and the analysis videos. But there's also a higher level of membership, which will now be continuing on with many of the chapters where we're going into more formal depth of teaching forensic linguistics, which is a wonderful skill to learn if you haven't considered it. Knowing who's lying to you and when and how, very useful. So consider those two things, and I look forward to chatting with you. Okay, speak soon.